Welcome to Birch Grove. This is DESC's 20th supportive housing building. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have seen some neighbors, many of our government and community partners. We'll have elected officials here, our funders and supporters, and of course, the dedicated staff from DESC who have made this afternoon possible. I'm going to start us today. Cheer for all of us here. I'm going to start us today with land acknowledgement. DESC Birch Grove occupies the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples. Please join us in acknowledging their community, elders past and present, and future generations. DESC also acknowledges that many indigenous people from near and far were dislocated from their lands and cultural practices, resulting in many hardships, including homelessness. We honor all Coast Salish and other indigenous peoples and commit to learning and identifying DESC's role in undoing harm. Today is a celebration, but it's also a moment to recognize what it really takes to build lasting stability. No single organization built Birch Grove. This building stands because our partners across public, private, and housing, healthcare, and human services sectors aligned around a shared belief that everyone deserves a safe place to call home and the support that they need to thrive. That's why our theme today is Where Stability Takes Root. Birch Grove is more than housing. It's a foundation where people stabilize their health, rebuild their relationships, and reconnect with their community. The building is named in honor of Helen Birch, a former DESC client who some of us knew, whose life and legacy inspire our work. Later in the program, we'll hear from Helen's family about why we chose to dedicate this space in her name. Throughout the program today, you'll hear from the leaders and partners who championed this project. Their perspectives reflect a core truth. Housing is not the end of a journey, it is the beginning. Today is about one simple idea: what becomes possible when people have a place to call home? After today's speaking program, I want to invite you all to join us for the open house. We'll have a Pathways to Stability tour and Jimmy's Journey to experience a closer look at how Birch Grove residents will support residents every day. And there also will be lunch. I want to take a moment to thank the many, many partners that helped make today happen. I'm going to start with our government partners, starting with the state of Washington. And I know that we have a representative from the governor's office here, M. Stone. Great to see you. And I most especially want to thank the Department of Commerce, the Office of Apple Health and Homes, and the Housing Finance Commission. Also want to thank King County, including the Department of Community and Human Services. And thank you, Dr. Susan McLaughlin, Director of the department, who is here with us today. And the City of Seattle, including the Seattle Office of Housing. And we have Director Andrea Akita with us as well. Thank you all. And to name our many community partners, including Absher Construction, Atlas Design Group, Corporation for Supportive Housing, Enterprise, Falcon Associates, Fazio Associates, First American, Stoll Reeves, JP Morgan Chase, Kidder Matthews, Latitude 48, O'Brien 360, SMR Architects, the Baldwin Group, Washington Community Reinvestment Association, and C Tango, our caterer today. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, let's get on with the show here. Thank you all so much for being here and helping turn this vision into a reality. And now I am going to turn it over to DESC's Executive Director, Daniel Malone.
Thank you, Nicole. So great to see so many faces here today. It's really amazing. So I am so happy to be here to celebrate the completion of DESC's 20th supportive housing development. And doing something 20 times must mean you believe in it. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. So what is it? What is supportive housing? Well, the concept is simple. Like any structure that's built to last, like this one, all of us have to have a foundation for our lives. Home often provides that, along with family, friends, activities, healthcare. What we do in supportive housing is provide the safe, stable place to live for people with profound disabilities who have been experiencing really difficult circumstances. Tenants sign leases and pay rent that they can afford based on their individual incomes. And then we make sure a great array of support is available to them. That includes mental health and substance use disorder services that are brought to where people are, at home, when that's needed. The objective of these services is to entice people into care because they see that there's value in receiving that care, keeping in mind that most of the people we're trying to care for have had, at one point or another, bad prior experiences with people who are trying to fix them. It takes special efforts to make meaningful treatment connections with people, and being able to provide these licensed behavioral health services ourselves allows us to be flexible and creative in how we offer those supports. So that's a bit about what it is. What makes us so convinced that it really works, though? I'll point to a few things. One is my own experience working in the old DESC main shelter and then in our first supportive housing building way back in the day. I saw the personal transformation that people underwent firsthand. Imagine being stuck in survival mode for years on end, and then suddenly having the ability to explore your interests and what the broader community might have in store that you can plug into. Another thing that convinces us is the actual evidence. No homelessness interventions can touch the outcomes that supportive housing has achieved. Academic research has shown this over and over again, and a lot of that research has been done right here at DESC. Individual stability, reductions in crisis events, and a permanent exit from homelessness are what supportive housing makes happen for people. So if you don't believe me or these research studies, maybe some testimonials from families will help. Over the years, I've had conversations with so many family members of people receiving support from DESC. A very common story is that families have become overwhelmed by the needs of their loved ones. And then when they see that DESC is meeting some of those needs, the sense of relief that they express to us is profound. All the stories of each person and each family's experience are different, of course, and so today I'm just so glad that Helen Birch's family will help you understand some of that from their perspective, a little bit about her experience. I knew Helen a little bit, and one of the unsung things that I want to mention about what the people who live in buildings like this do is they enrich the life of the community, of the neighborhood itself. I experienced how Helen was received by businesses in the Cascade neighborhood when she was living there, and people really took a liking to her. There was a lot to like, and she was not somebody that they felt they needed to tolerate. She was somebody that they felt they should celebrate. And so I'm so glad we can extend that here today. So finally, the data show that people who get housing like this stay housed. And this is a point that the public often gets confused about. They see homelessness numbers rising and they assume that nobody is being helped out of homelessness. But the truth is that people escape homelessness all the time, including people that the public thinks are never able to get out of homelessness, such as people with difficult mental illness and substance use disorder conditions. People in those circumstances who get supportive housing, like Birch Grove, will remain housed and their conditions will improve. The other misunderstood part of this story about the rise in homelessness is that the number of people falling into homelessness in the community continues to grow, outpacing the number of people that are able to get out into important places like this. So we need more. There just aren't enough adequate places for people with serious psychiatric conditions to live in our community. For one, people with disabilities typically live on very low incomes like SSI. And if you're on SSI in this rental market, you can't rent a place unless you have a rent subsidy, but there aren't enough of those. And then a subset of people with disabilities and very low incomes need the additional support that is provided in places like Birch Grove. It's a great investment in people and in the community overall because it brings so many people off the streets for good. I'm really proud to live in a community that puts its resources toward improving the lives of community members who need extra support. The people of Seattle not only give voice to these values, but they have regularly voted to tax themselves for this purpose. I have a big debt of gratitude to this community and the government of the city of Seattle, and I'm so pleased to welcome Mayor Katie Wilson to join us in celebrating this shared accomplishment today. Thank you.
Well, thank you to Daniel, and thank you to the whole team at DESC. It is such a pleasure to be here with all of you today in celebration. Standing in front of this building, looking out at all of you, I feel something that doesn't always come easy in this kind of work. And that's hope. Not just hope, but real, grounded hope that you can touch. We're here to celebrate Birch Grove. 120 homes, 120 front doors that lock, 120 places where someone can rest, heal, and begin again. Why do we build places like this? It's because we know, as Daniel said, that the solution to homelessness is housing. Not someday, not after every box is checked. Housing first, and with that, the support that helps people to stay. And we know this works because the numbers tell us so. We know that 95% of residents at DESC remain housed after 1 year. 95%. That is one of the highest success rates anywhere in the nation. And that number is not an accident. It happens because Birch Grove and DESC's other buildings give people not just a roof over their head, but genuine support. Every tenant has an assigned staff member walking alongside them, and care delivered right where people live. Housing and support together under one roof. That's the model, and it works. So here's the hard truth that I think we all know. We do not have enough affordable homes for people with extremely low incomes or no income at all. That need is real, and it continues to grow. We need more buildings like Birch Grove, where people get the housing and the support that helps them to keep it. And so we have more work ahead of us than behind us. But days like today, when we get to open these doors, remind us exactly why this work is worth doing. And we also know that none of this happens alone. And the partnership that is required to pull off a feat like this is reflected in the people here today. Local, city, county, state, federal leaders, the private sector, all working together. And DESC has been a trusted partner of the city for a very long time. You have stood with our most vulnerable neighbors when it was hard, when it was unpopular, and frankly today, it could be argued that it is unpopular, when nobody was watching. You have earned the city's trust, one resident, one door, one life at a time. So thank you, truly. And I also want to be clear about where the city stands, because words are easy and commitments are not. The city is supporting Birch Grove with $4 million a year in operating costs for the foreseeable future, and I'm proud of that. That funding will help to keep the lights on, help to keep the staff in place, and keep these doors open. And let me say this plainly. If federal funding is ever pulled out from under this work, we will prioritize keeping our city's supportive homes operating. We will not let the people who live in these buildings lose the stability that they have fought so hard to find. So I'll leave you with this. Birch Grove proves what is possible when we lead with dignity and back it up with real resources. It proves that housing heals and that people given a fair chance will rise. We need more of these homes, and we're going to keep fighting for them. So to everyone who had a hand in building this, in funding this, and everyone who will work inside these walls every day, thank you, and we will continue this important work together.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wilson, for lifting up the importance of hope and for your partnership and your continued commitment to both fund existing housing and to commit to expanding housing and the supports that go with it right here in our community. I want to take a moment to say a special thanks to the neighbors here in Lake City. The neighbors have been tremendous here in welcoming us to this community. And I have the honor of introducing one Lake City neighbor who I know particularly well. Creating regional stability requires leadership at every level of government and a willingness to break down barriers and to work across barriers to scale real solutions. Our next speaker is really a powerful voice for housing justice, disability rights, and equity in the Washington State Legislature. Please join me in welcoming Representative Daria Farivar.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Nicole. Hello, everyone. It is so good to be here with you today. Thank you so much to DESC, our public partners, providers, advocates, and community members for making Birch Grove possible. As a proud, lifelong Lake City resident and disability advocate, we have needed this for so long. Thank you for coming to Lake City to serve and to support our community. Today is a celebration of what can happen when we come together around the belief that everyone deserves a safe place to call home and a chance to belong in community. Birch Grove represents more than housing. It represents stability, strength, dignity, and opportunity for people facing some of the greatest barriers to housing. A safe place to live can be the foundation for better health, stronger connections, and a more hopeful future. Housing is not a luxury. Let me say that one more time. Housing is not a luxury. It is the foundation on which everything else is built. This investment is especially meaningful for Lake City because it recognizes that when our neighbors are facing crisis, the answer should not be displacement. For decades, DESC has led with the understanding that our neighbors furthest from opportunity and are most often in need of support. By prioritizing housing for neighbors in crisis, this project sends a powerful message. You belong here. This is your home. We refuse to accept that some of our neighbors deserve less. Every person who walks through these doors deserves to be here, deserves to have a home. By creating pathways to stability for people facing some of the biggest barriers to housing, Birch Grove will help people remain connected in the neighborhood they call home, creating a stronger, healthier, safer, and more connected community for every single one of us. What makes this project so special is the partnership behind it. bringing together housing, healthcare, supportive services, and community investment. It reflects an understanding that lasting solutions are built together, not in silos. It reflects the recognition that stable housing, wrapped with real support, is how people do more than just survive, it is how they transform. At its heart, Birch Grove is about belonging. It's about creating a place where people can put down roots and build stability and know that they are part of a community that cares for them. To the people who will call Birch Grove home, we see you, we support you, we welcome you into the community with open arms. Today, we celebrate not only this building, but the neighbors who will make it their own, the staff who will make it possible, and the stronger, healthier, more connected community that will grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rep. Farivar. Birch Grove reflects the kind of community we want to see, one where everyone belongs. Are you sensing the theme across all the speakers here? And one where people have the opportunity to build a stable future for themselves. Projects of this scale are only possible when the public and private sectors collaborate effectively. I'm going to introduce our next speaker now that epitomizes that and has helped to anchor this partnership on this building. Dustin Coons from JP Morgan Chase. Please come on up. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Dustin Coons. I'm the Vice President of JP Morgan Community Development Banking. It's an honor to be with everybody today. What a great building. This looks like a building I would live in. It's 120 units of hope. For the residents who will call this home, Birch Grove is more than a building. It's a place to find safety, healing, and connection. Investments like this remind us why we do this work. Housing creates the foundation for everything else. Health, opportunity, dignity, and projects like Birch Grove demonstrate the real impact possible when organizations align around a shared vision. Seattle is where we live and where we work, and where we bring real passion to projects like this. I grew up in Shoreline, just a couple miles north of this. It is amazing to have resources like this in the community, and to be one of the financial sponsors on this project, along with Enterprise, the City of Seattle, King County, the State of Washington, the Housing Finance Commission, along with other public and nonprofit partners who help make this possible. Congratulations to everyone here today. Birch Grove opens its doors. As Birch Grove opens its doors, we're proud to see this vision become reality, a place where residents will find stability, support, and a true sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Okay, now I'm going to introduce someone who I have known for a very long time. DESC is so fortunate to have so many staff who have worked here for a very long time, many of whom have worked in multiple different roles. And I am going to introduce someone who's going to talk a little bit about why this project is named Birch Grove. While capital investments and policy alignment are essential in building buildings like Birch Grove, they ultimately gain meaning from the human lives connected to them. Birch Grove represents not just a story, but a legacy and a tangible reminder of why we do this work. We're going to hear a little bit more about Birch Grove from our Senior Capital Project Manager, Jared Odell.
I don't usually do this. Okay, great. My name is Jared, and I'm really proud to say that Helen Birch was a friend of mine. I'm part of the capital projects team, so the property development team. I want to give a quick shout out to Corey and Suni, wherever you guys are, Sandra. We did it. Nathan, sorry. I was really trying to get the building named after my friend here, our friend here, and my team was very supportive of that entire process. If I start crying, you just gotta, Daniel said you can just give me a second. It just means I'm happy, okay? That's all it means. I started and I met Helen Birch 20 years ago when I started as a residential counselor at Kerner-Scott House. That's where I met the late great Helen Birch. Helen Birch, like what she means to DESC, by the time I met her, I met someone that was stable and just a joy and a pleasure to be with. DESC's host team outreached her, the housing team then housed her at Kerner-Scott, and then the medical team then worked with her and partnered with her in her community of choice, which was Kerner-Scott, which she obviously grew to love if you knew her. For those of you that don't know Helen, I'm just going to try my best. Tanya, forgive me if I'm a little bit wrong here, but I always saw Helen as kind of like Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy. Is that right? That's right. Okay. Yes. And so how could you not love her, right? She was intelligent, funny, helpful, larger than life, and always silly. And when I met her, I was 25, and can you imagine somebody more fun for a 25-year-old kid? Helen is what the kids call today extra, but in a good way. So anyways, one of my jobs there as an RC when I first started was to drive our DESC van around and pick up people that were experiencing homelessness every night. Helen Birch was my shotgun co-captain every single night for 2 years. And we would sing, and we would dance, and we would jam with the music, and she never missed a pickup with me, and I had to make 3 runs every night, and she did that consistently with me for 2 years. Michelle. I then moved to our DESC thrift store, okay, and when I moved there, Helen, along with a couple other folks, started to come down to volunteer. Now, the thrift store is in Pioneer Square. Helen was very popular with everybody that came in. She would sing and dance out front on the sidewalk, saying, "Hey, everybody, come on inside. Woohoo, it's better than Macy's in here." When she was gone for a while and she wasn't coming down to volunteer, different people would come in and they'd say, "Hey, Jared, where's your grandmother?" And I would never bother to correct them because I didn't want to share. Oh, Justin, I didn't want to share what Helen, really, she was working still with DESC, and I rolled with it. Like, it was what an honor to be called a grandson of Helen Birch, I would say that when Helen also was working at the thrift store, she would also go out into the community, take stuff from the thrift store without my permission, and give it away to anybody in need. Soap, new shirts, new socks, everybody that needed something. And then she'd come inside and I'd be like, hey, I got a budget here, But she saved a lot of lives, honestly. Like, she was a great outreach case manager. She could have been. Helen and I would also often dress up at the thrift store. Now, I worked there with her for 8 years, so my relationship with her is 10 years old. I spent more time with Helen than I did with members of my own family. And we would dress up, and we would try new things on, and we would try to outdo each other as if it was a competition to see who was more self-important. Now, that was one of Helen's sayings, and what it really meant was how I value myself and how I can wear my flair and wear tags on my clothes and my sunglasses, always my sunglasses, to let the world know that I was important, that she was important, and we would joke about that often. Helen and I had many adventures together. I remember one. On Wednesdays, I would go down to the thrift. I would go to the the bank, and Helen would come with me. I needed to get quarters for the thrift store, and we would make this trip. If you guys were hanging out in Pioneer Square during the entire Obama administration, you would have seen this guy with Helen walking around the streets with our sunglasses on, because we preferred it that way. Anyway, one day we walked into the bank, and I'm walking with Helen, and she's on my left, and I hear this man yell, "Freeze, hands up!" And I look to the left, and I see Helen shoot her hands up into the air. She goes, "Oh, God!" And I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, oh, great, I just walked into an active bank robbery. I'm going to have to write a log for this. I'm going to have to write an extraordinary incident report. I'm never going to get off early today. And I'm turning around, and we turn to see a man dressed like a security guard with his hands on his weapon. And I thought, well, that's an interesting costume for a bank robber. I think I've seen this movie before. Helen and he yelled at both of us and said, "Don't you two know better than to wear sunglasses when you walk into a bank?" Helen put her grin on, and I knew that she thought this was funny. At the time, I was actually pretty scared still, but I knew that she thought it was funny, so neither of us said a word to each other, and we went and I'm sorry, I'm missing part of the story. The bank teller turned around, and when the man was still looking at us, and said, "Don't you know, Jim, that's just Jared and his grandmother. They run the thrift store down the street. Leave them alone." And Helen and I are just looking at each other. We take our glasses off like two kids that just got in trouble, and we walk over to the teller. We do our thing. We don't speak to each other. We get outside, and I say, "Helen, that was not funny, man. I almost peed my pants, dude. Are you kidding me?" And she takes her sunglasses, and I go, "You know, these guys, they thought that you and I were bank robbers?" And she takes her sunglasses like this and goes, "It's because we look cool." Now, all of you should have received a pair of sunglasses if you got them on, if you could put them on. I do have one thing to say. DESC cannot be held responsible or liable if you choose to wear new sunglasses into a financial institution. I'm not sure what point it happened, but at some point over the years, Helen she just became a friend of mine. And we talk about community, and we talk about these buildings that we make, and I also lived downtown near Helen, and I would drive outside of her apartment, and she always sat in the front, always on this front stoop, smoking a cigarette, having a brevy, and I would honk my horn, and she would have her sunglasses, and she'd go, "Is that you?" And she'd yell it at me, and then I'd honk again, and she goes, "It is you!" And then she'd put her glasses back down, and she'd always say something different, like, "It's that goddamn Jarrett, he's come to bother me again!" And she'd come running out, and then I would take her for a walk. And anyway, I'm sorry, Helen died 10 years ago. I moved to the property development team here at DESC, and she meant so much to so many people here at DESC in those days, a long time ago, and she meant so much to me, and I never forgot her. And so I was really excited to try to get this building named after her, and we did it. We're going to have beautiful birch trees when the canopies grow. It's going to be fantastic. Now, Helen Birch will be synonymous for 120 people for housing. It will mean home. When they say Birch, it will mean home for them. This is a good, lasting tribute to all of our friend Helen Birch, and the forever self-important Helen Birch. So.
My name is Timothy C. Wilkins. I'm born and raised in Chicago. I've been here in this state since 1996. I came here, I was having a very hard time getting a job. I worked for temporary services. Many days I would just go with one meal, not cigarette, no change of clothes, smelling very bad, going from just riding a bus or walking from block to block, not seeing no way out of this. I just gave up. I was done. It was too many things in front of me to stop me from what I wanted to do. It's a feeling that'll come over you that it's hopelessness. And it takes a long time. Some people it take a long time to get out of it. You become entrapped in it, and you can't see yourself out of it no kind of way. I had an accident, fell down the stairs, when Ellen and I, and just never went back to the workforce. My legs were done at the time, but I didn't know it. I wasn't diagnosed with neuropathy. You could be standing up and your legs go out at any given time. So they say it's safe for me to be in this wheelchair, but they're gonna graduate me to a walker so I can exercise my legs a little bit. I was talking to a guy and he mentioned DSC. And I was like, well, what can they help you with? They said they help you with housing, they help you with food and stuff like that. DSC was a hope in my life where I had no other. I explored other opportunities and stuff like that from different agencies, but I found that DSC was the one that really put their foot into it to actually do something.
With Tim being housed at Hobson's Place, I feel like it has given him some leverage to be able to deal with those things that he has to deal with. He's able to go to a home. He has a case manager. He has co-workers that work here that care about him, that are advocating for his best. I think it would have played out a lot different had he not had DSC, had he not had somewhere to go. He's being able to start dreaming again and start, having goals and thinking of the possibility.
Well, it took some time to adjust. I wasn't used to having a door with a lock. Had to get used to that. I wasn't used to much privacy as I have. And I like this. You really could build something from this. You just concentrate. Where do you want to go in life? Where do you want to be now? Now you're thinking logically instead of just round and round. Now I have a piece of serenity. Peace of mind.
Hey.
Oh, I'm following Tim. You could have gave me a minute or I'm over here crying. No, but
Okay. I'm just here again to introduce Tanya Carter, who worked with her Aunt Helen for all of those years at Kerner-Scott House. And I got a little present for her. No, I didn't get the present. FunDev did. But Tanya. It says, welcome aboard. If you knew Helen from back in the day and you were a new tenant, or if you were a new coworker, that's what she would say to you on your first day. Welcome aboard. See some Kerner-Scott people over there laughing. All right.
That is awesome. Oh, well, thank you. Hold on, I'm really gonna, that's powerful. I'm gonna find a place for my water, of which I did, and I'm gonna blow my nose away from the microphone. I needed 30 more seconds anyway, y'all. Anyways, well, this whole program has been moving, and it's just amazing the work that everybody here has contributed to. And I would like to start by saying good afternoon. And thank you, Jared, for the introduction. I would like to start, did I say that? I would like to start by saying a huge thank you to DESC, their partners, their supporters, for taking on such an amazing project, housing for our most avoided and vulnerable population, providing folks with complete wraparound services, a place to call home, all to foster hope back into their lives. The legacy that Aunt Helen left us with is Birch Grove, a tangible reminder of perseverance. Despite all her obstacles, she remained resilient to her circumstances. Nothing was going to deter her from getting what she wanted for herself, her neighbors, and friends. She shined in her community, always could share a laugh or more likely to create one. She was by no means shy. She wanted to know all about you. She definitely would be all up in your business. Aunt Helen was fearless, outspoken, and raw. Birch, as most folks called her, was honest, mostly, and would tell you how she really thought, whether you liked it or not. Everyone who knew Aunt Helen knew she had a big personality. She was outgoing, funny, loving, and caring. She looked after the underdog, all the while she herself was an underdog. Aunt Helen doesn't look at it that way, though. Page, turn in. Good thing I have liquid in my mouth. I remember her telling me as a kid that we are all important, and that's how she lived. Yes, she struggled with mental illness and homelessness most of her life, yet that never stopped her from living her life on her own terms. One of her strengths definitely was her mouth. She could talk to anyone, from the man leaned into the shop doorway to guard against the weather, to the governor of Washington, of which she let Governor Gregoire know what the people's needs were in her building. Wouldn't you know, her apartment got furnished shortly thereafter. Aunt Helen was kind and giving, a bit rough around the edges, but that's okay, we loved her anyways. I don't know how many times I would get a voicemail with her telling me, "Tanya, I can't find you on my radar. I'll be on the corner of Walk and Don't Walk. This is Helen, call me." I'd call her and she wanted me to come down to Kerner-Scott to get her some cigarettes and a breve. I'd go down, buy her smoke, sit on the stoop visiting, and before I knew it, she'd give away 5 or 6 to friends saying that they needed them. I'd go round and round with her, as did my cousin Jenny, but she was steadfast on sharing because she had found herself in similar situations. Like I said before, Aunt Helen struggled with her schizophrenia and homelessness. For years, she would go in and out of the hospital and the streets. I remember her coming over and staying for a while, then would head off on vacation. That's what my mom would tell me. Until one day I asked why we couldn't go on vacation like Aunt Helen. She doesn't have any money like us. That's when I learned about Aunt Helen's mental illness. But Aunt Helen described her time away. She said it was a vacation. She went swimming, did arts and crafts, and they had different groups to join. It did sound like a vacation, actually. That's what she did. She would put a spin on things. One day she called my mom and told her where she was living. That was Kerner-Scott. She boasted about her new place, and that's where she met most of you. The staff there would listen to her stories, help her with arranging appointments, medication management, and meals. They offered stability. Oh, but she definitely pushed the boundaries. After a great deal of time, she was ready to get an apartment. She moved across the street. She was still able to get services from Kerner-Scott. All of DESC are amazing. They fight for the people. They definitely are caring and compassionate. So in turn, Aunt Helen thrived. She started to go on real vacations with family. I remember being on a wig kick. She loved her wigs. Once bought my mom one. She was like, "Judy, this is my Spice Girl wig. Now we're twins." Just so happened to be Scary Spice. tight curls and fluffy. There's a picture of her wearing it. I told her, wait a minute, Aunt Helen, Scary Spice was the black girl. To which she replied, representing. She took people as they were. Don't get it wrong, she talked about you. Did she not? The significance of this honor of having Helen Birch remembered, embodied in Birch Grove, gives hope and courage to the people, your neighbors and friends, whom are going to call Birch Grove home. We as a family are truly proud and grateful that she touched so many and will touch so many. And to DESC, thank you for the honor of leaving an awesome legacy to Helen Birch through Birch Grove. In finishing, I know Aunt Helen would be sitting right up front. Huge smile on her face, trying to figure out when we're gonna eat. She'd also be wondering, when can I move in, because it's my building. You did it, girl. You're the most important, and we all love you. And the spirit you rode in on. Thank you so much. Take more water.
Jared and Tanya, thank you so much for bringing us a little glimpse into what Helen was like. I knew Helen from my years working at DESC. I did not know her well, but Tanya, your impression of Helen's voice brings me right back to rolling up on Kerner-Scott House and always seeing Helen out there in front. So thank you for that. Next, I am just so delighted to introduce our next speaker. Many of you know her as the champion for housing justice and healthcare access in the United States Congress. A true champion for this community, especially now when we see an increasingly hostile federal government putting many of us at risk. I have known Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal for many years. I got to know her best when she and her husband and her neighbors worked hard to welcome a DESC supportive housing project in their neighborhood many years ago. And with that, I will introduce Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much, Representative Macri, for your friendship, for your leadership in the state legislature. We're so grateful to you. I am just so moved by Jared and Tanya's descriptions of Helen, and I guess it just reminds me again about what I've always loved about DESC. And Daniel, thank you for your leadership. Thank you to the whole team at DESC. I've been a DESC fan for way longer than I've been a member of Congress, and it is the humanness of the efforts. The lifting up of the right for everybody to have dignity and respect and housing and healthcare and everything that we should have as human beings that really is at the heart of everything that DESC does. And you see it in the poster, you see it in the speeches that you've just heard, and I am just so grateful to the entire team for everything that you do every single day to uphold that right. This is an incredible, exciting moment, an incredible milestone, the groundbreaking of the 20th permanent supportive housing building in DESC's network. And I was very proud to have secured almost $1 million for the Kerner-Scott project back in 2023, and it's just been great to see over the several decades that I've been involved with DESC to see how you have continued to grow, how you've continued to push the boundaries of what is really necessary in these supportive housing facilities, and to push the housing first model to expand critical services and put roofs over people's heads, more than 1,000 of our neighbors. I think all of us know that are here, but I have to keep sending the message in Congress and across the country that homelessness is not a personal failure. It is a policy failure. And the only good news about that is that we can fix it. We can fix it with real policies that help promote supportive services for vulnerable people instead of what we have at the federal level, which has been a failure of our federal government to help the most vulnerable amongst us when they need it. And since coming back into office, just going to get a little bit political for a second, this party, Republicans and the Trump administration have literally worked very, very tirelessly to enact the largest transfer of wealth from poor people to the wealthiest amongst us, to billionaires, in what I call their big bad betrayal bill that they passed last year. That slashed food assistance, it slashed health care for millions of Americans, and they have been doing everything that they can to take away our housing assistance, rental assistance programs. And that's all, by the way, while raising the defense budget to a record-breaking $1.5 trillion. So we've got money for lots of wars, but we don't have money for the health and housing of people here at home. That is absolutely unacceptable. And I think for all of us, what DESC is doing here at this facility and all of your work is fighting back against that idea and saying that is not who we are in Seattle, that is not who we're going to be, and we are going to continue to do everything we can to increase home ownership for millions of Americans. We know what works because we have you, DESC. We've seen what a housing first model does. We know that building housing, investing in programs to keep people housed, mental health and substance use care, case management services, organizing outings to food banks, and building community is the solution. We have it right in front of us. We see how it works, and we see how important that is. I want you to know that while DESC is here in our state, DESC is a national leader. When Daniel Malone gets up and speaks at these Housing First conferences, everyone listens because we have real proven experience to show that this works. Birch Grove is building on that leadership by integrating all of these things, behavioral health care, substance use disorder treatment, and physical health care into supportive housing. This site is just yet another example that when we care for the whole person, and support them with wraparound care, people not only remain stably housed, they also improve their health, their independence, and their quality of life. And this brand new building, in Helen's honor, is really now going to be yet another example of that. 120 people exiting chronic homelessness and honoring the legacy of the people who make that possible. People like Helen Birch and like so many others in the DESC community. You've heard a lot about Helen, so I feel like there's nothing that I can really add to that other than to say that this honoring of Helen, creating this grove of security, of shade, of respite for people to get back their lives again that they so deserve, that is also a recommitment to carrying on her legacy. It doesn't end here. It is about continuing her fight for a future where every single person in this country has the shelter, the support, and the care they need, not just to survive, but to thrive. I have been working very hard at the federal level to ensure that we expand HUD's continuum of care and programs like Medicaid that help create the foundation for successful permanent housing initiatives like Birch Grove. Protecting, restoring, and strengthening those federal programs is one of my top priorities, and it's absolutely essential to making sure that more people can access the support they need. So in Congress, I'm really proud to have introduced my Housing is a Human Right Act, which is, we worked with all of you to make sure that that model was right. That's more than a $300 billion investment in affordable housing infrastructure and supportive services. I've also introduced the Housing Not Handcuffs Act because I am sick and tired of the criminalizing of homelessness across this country. Nobody will magically have the money to afford rent if they're thrown in jail or fined for sleeping outside. We can do better than that. And I know that in being here today, I'm in a community that not only knows that, but is working for that every single day. So DESC, I'm so proud that I was an organizer and activist with you all those decades ago, and so proud to see and support the work that you are doing every day to build our beloved community as it should be built. Thank you and congratulations for all of your great work.
Okay, you all have been amazing, and you all have a suntan now as well. So I want to wrap up our program. I just want to thank everyone who's made this project possible. You've heard us talk about all of them. I want to, before we close, just say a special thank you to the DESC staff who made this happen, including our property development team. It takes a lot of coordination, late nights, long days, long weeks to make this happen. But as you walk around both the inside and outside of this building, I implore you to notice the small little details that make this a home. It's really a labor of love. I want to also lift up our housing, behavioral health, and medical teams who have partnered very closely in making sure that the services here and the experience for folks who will be living here, it will be great. We have a saying at DESC that everything that happens here is intended to enrich that exchange between a client and a frontline staff person. I want to especially thank the frontline staff who work at DESC, those who will be working here at Birch Grove. Many of them are out at a training today getting ready for opening the doors to residents. But we celebrate them and the entire DESC staff, and we celebrate all of you for partnering with us. Today, we celebrate more than just a building. We celebrate the people who will call Birch Grove home, the community that made it possible, and the belief that when stability takes root, people have the opportunity to grow. I'm going to show you the plaque that we're going to put up here in honor of Helen. Well, thank you all for joining us. Please go ahead. There'll be self-guided tours and a bit to eat and a little bit of shade and respite inside. So thanks so much for being here.